Good morning, students. So I believe the screen is visible and the voice is also audible. And wishing you a happy new year, and we can start the session for today. So students, today is a very important session, and today's session you will perform very well because the SWOT what we have done is a very detailed SWOT. So your thinking process will be even better when we are doing the comparison of the financial statistics between Hottayr and Thermwide, who is our number one competitors. Now, students, if you observe in this case, we are going to analyze Hottayr and Thermwide. Now, one of the major, I can say, issue in the understanding is the financial statements. Now, if you observe the financial statements, we are effectively having a revenue, and then directly we come for operating profit. Because generally students, we have something called the cost of sales or the cost of production. But here it is directly operation cost. And another problem is we are not able to identify something like admin cost. Because students, admin cost, if it is mentioned in the face of the financial statements, it will be even easier for the analyst to observe what has happened. And also students, they have missed something called distribution cost. I believe even that is also very clear for you. The distribution cost is also not mentioned, the selling and distribution. And then students, they directly come to the finance cost and then the tax expense and profit for the year. Now, the understanding in this is we need to quickly look at our competitor and even see how their financial statements have been designed. And one thing, even their financial statements has been designed in this structure. So we can't say anything wrong. We can only say that is the industry benchmark. So can I write down a comparing point there? Since
Yes,
our
sir.
competitor also has done the same thing, I can specifically mention it is an industry benchmark. That means everyone is following the same thing. And can you remember, students, in the previous class, I think we were discussing about the types of corporate governance. There are two types of corporate governance. One is the rule-based and the other one is the principle-based. And if you observe a company which is listed in the financial market for a long period of time, is not going with the rules, that means indirectly, it means it's a principle-based market. I believe that is very clear for you because
Yes,
can
sir.
you remember we learned this?
Yes,
So in
sir.
a rule-based, we need to make sure that we are able to have all the details that is set by the rules to be mentioned and to be transparent. But in the principle base, that's okay because the market, the shareholders are fine. Comply or explain. So students, the first thing that you need to understand is admin and the distribution cost is not explicitly visible. So this will have a huge problem when it comes to analyzing the financial statements more in detail, in specifically to the remunerations that is paid to the board of directors. So that is one question mark that comes into this. So I'll just write down a transparency issue. It's not a weakness, it's a transparency issue, but still the company has survived in the stock market for a longer period of time. So students, can I please write down here transparency issue? What is that, students?
Transparent.
Transparency issue. And the transparency issue is remunerations of the board, correct? Because when you are not able to see the administration cost, there is a huge tendency the remuneration of the board has not been visible. Remuneration of the board. Students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are understanding this very clearly. The remuneration of the
Yes,
board,
sir.
very, very, very important, and it's related to corporate governance. But the thing is, the shareholders are okay, so that is fine that we can make a presumption. Now, students, the next thing is, I have done the ratios, if you have observed, between our company and Thermwike. And the understanding is, I will just guide you the growth. I have initially calculated the growth. So I'll just guide you what is this growth. Now, students, in simple language, growth is the change between one financial year to another financial year. 2020, 2021, the difference or the change, I'll write down here, the change is only effectively known as what, students? The growth. So if you observe, in case of the revenue growth, how I calculated, it's very simple. I have taken the current year revenue, which is 756, and I have taken 699, and I have compared the growth between the previous year and the current year using the previous year's aspect. So in that case, students, if you observe, I have effectively got a number of 8.15. And children, just remember one thing, we are not concerned about our numbers are mathematically right or no. We are extremely concerned about what does these numbers effectively mean for our organization. Students, can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are
Yes, sir.
clear with that? Excellent. Thank you very much, students. Wonderful. So students, now growth or decline in sales is very critical for doing the technical analysis. Now observe it very clearly. 8.15 is our growth and Thermwike is just having 1.39. Now I can clearly observe one thing is we can't directly compare Thermwike and Happy Place, although we are producing the same goods. It's like comparing BMW with a company like Mazda, because BMW has a different, I can say, market, and Mazda is having a different market, but effectively both are selling cars. So effectively you will find a huge difference in their numbers when you are doing comparison. So I will write down here premium products and strong establishment. Correct, no, students? Yes on
Yes,
premium
sir.
products, strong establishment. Now, if you see in this case, I can write down here economical products. So I'll mention here economical products, and the establishment is not clear because they have not mentioned like a story. Because if you look at our story, we started in 1950s, right? If I'm not mistaken. Even
Yes,
when
sir.
there were no technological advancement in the market, our company was present. So that is the difference between these two. So students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are clear with the Hottayr and if you are clear with the Thermwike point of view? Because effectively that is very, very important for you all to analyze and learn. Excellent. Now, children, observe this very clearly. 1.39 is the growth for Thermwike. And if you observe the revenue growth for Hottayr is effectively 8.15. That itself clearly shows that the growth is extremely higher. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I can effectively say it's very high because of their technological advancement. Now, if you observe Anushka, we have Wi-Fi controllable heat pumps.
Yes, sir.
Example, from the mobile phone, you can control the temperature.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you see that itself clearly shows how forward the company is. So one thing I can say in our analysis, even before we come to the conclusion, we can say Hottayr will only win this analysis. But if you want to have a very stronger comparison, we should not have Thermwike, we should have Flownice.
Flowns.
But the only problem we have is Flownice is having a different currency. So we will be not having the, I can say, autonomy to compare with the end dollar with the currency they have. So students, if I'm not mistaken, I will write down the reasons so that it will be very clear for the students in the classroom. So I can just mention the revenue is generally greater since the market segments of target audience vary. Agree, no, students? Now, Anushka, can you compare Mahindra with BMW? Definitely
No,
no.
sir.
In very openly, we can say BMW will win the battle because
Yes,
their
sir.
target audience completely vary, students. Get that point of view.
Yes, sir.
Further, there is some indication that Hottayr has more innovations and upgrades. Example, the heat pumps can be controlled by mobile phone. And can I just mention IoT? IoT means Internet of Things. That is one more thing. Further, the strong network with the B2B clients. B2B clients. Correct, no, Anushka? Because
Yes, sir.
although our product is going directly to the consumer, but it is going through the B2B network.
B2. Yes, sir.
Example like the Nolan Gas. And then we have something called large house builders. Correct, students, if I'm not mistaken. Large
Yes.
house builders. And the final one, if I'm not mistaken, is the contractors, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
Building
Building
contractors.
contractors, merchants.
Building merchants, right?
Yes,
Building
sir.
merchants, and also students installers and installers also. Because students, these are the major methods that this product is reaching the hands of the people. So students, I believe it is very, very clear for the classroom at the moment. So effectively, we can say the comparison itself is not a like-to-like comparison. So effectively, our ranges will be definitely high. So I can say this is just given to make sure the maturity level is very high with the students. Now coming to the operating cost.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I would like to add a point. Could we also say that our revenue is high because of our exports as well, because we are
Yeah.
exporting to other
Yeah.
countries,
Yeah.
and that is also growing market.
Yeah. So I'll write down here. Further, the exports of the heat pump may have a greater, I can say, impact to the revenue. Students, I believe this is giving you a better clarity at the moment.
So you're on mute,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm on mute, no? So I
Yes,
believe
sir.
now is it clear, students? Thank you. Thank you for
Yes.
that. Now moving to the operating cost, students. Now, if you see our operational costs have grown very high significantly. But if you see the term Y has just been 1.84. Now, if you observe the operational cost is consisting of the manufacturing cost, consisting of the administration cost, consisting of the selling and distribution cost. Correct?
Yes,
So
sir.
that is the biggest weakness in the presentation they have. So initially I'll write down that operational cost is a combination of, in simple language students, operation cost is a combination of manufacturing cost, administration cost, comma, selling and distribution cost. Yes or no, students? There
Yes,
is
sir.
so many costs that is involved. So understand it very clearly. So therefore, it may be more challenging to indicate specifically. Correct, no, students? To indicate specifically. We cannot specifically say what has happened, but we can do some generalizing. That is the major point here. Specifically, can't say that. Now, if you see, it's 8.65 and 1.84. Now, the main reason why our operational costs are high, one thing is raw materials. Students, can you remember the raw materials we use? That is aluminium, copper, if I'm not mistaken, students,
Yes, sir.
aluminium, copper, and then students, semiconductors and conductors. Can you remember that? Because
Yes,
these
sir.
are very, very important. And conductors. These are important, students. The main reason is we bring it down and we are not producing it also. And they have not mentioned anything whether we have local producers or anything like that. So the main issue is aluminium, copper, semiconductors, conductors are brought down to the market. Further, we need to make sure, further, we need to make sure how the remuneration structures are. That is also one more point. Remuneration structures are, and also a detailed analysis of the two factories needs to be presented. Correct, no, Anushka, if I'm not
Yes, sir.
mistaken.
Yes, sir.
So the biggest problem is, students, we have a higher growth, but we are making sure what should be inside this. So the good point I can generally say, when we are having a higher growth, I can say our investment level in expenses are very high. The reason is, you see here they have 1.84 economical class. Now, economical class business, the problem is they always try to minimize the cost. But if you see a premium brand, they will not try to minimize the cost. They will try to increase the cost and increase the value also.
Value. Yes,
So
sir.
I will also mention, since the operational costs have increased, it is I can say, increase in the expenses and values. Now, one thing, example, 10 years guarantee and 15 years usage. 10 years guarantee and 15 years usage. Full stop. Correct, no, students? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, if you are providing a guarantee period of 10 years and if it can be lasted for a 15 years period, I also say they need to be very curious about their operations also. So I can say, further, the research cost may also be presented. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Students, because we have Dr. Amina, right? If I'm not mistaken, may be presented, because Amina is the person who is in charge of the research also. So get that point of view very well. So I'll just come to the our in contrast. In contrast, observe it very clearly, students. In contrast, term work may have a very, I can say, few cost, since their value chain may be limited. Correct? No, there is something called value chain. I will guide you all later. Value chain may be limited. Value chain may be limited. Now, value chain is, students, the inbound activities and the primary activities and the secondary activities. Now, premium brands generally have a better value chain. Correct, no, Anushka? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Huge value chain, premium sourcing, everything. But
Yes,
for
sir.
this organization, I don't think they may have a premium valuations or anything like that. So this is the
Yes, sir.
point of view at the moment. Students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? If you are clear with this in contrast statement of term like what would have happened, so that it will be very easier for you all to understand that as well. So students, yeah.
Actually, when I did my analysis, what I saw was our asset turnover ratio is very low, sir. So what I thought was the one of the reasons our operating cost is high could be that our factories are not working efficiently. They have not mentioned if our air pumps factories has been automated or not. So I thought maybe because it is we are using human, it is not efficient enough, and that's why we are having more cost as well. That was
Mm,
one point of view.
no, I will come to that now. So, example, if your operational, I can say the asset turnover is less, it's mainly because of this. Now, you see, the reason is we have two factories at the moment.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And if you observe, what happens is the boiler factory is our oldest factory, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
yes, sir.
And the boiler factory has the most staff count also, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right.
And what happens is boilers production is day by day reducing, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
So what happens is the heat pump may be having a better asset turnover because you have less resources and more sales. But
Oh, okay, sir.
boiler has more resources and less
Less.
sales due to the change in the trend. So your point of view is perfectly correct. But the question arises is, do we need to have a change in the factory's operations internally?
Yes.
Example, when the boilers are not doing very well, you need to make sure that the boiler factory is slowly having operations for heat pumps and you train
Yes.
the people also. Are you clear with that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got
So
it.
I'll just make sure that is also written here. So if you observe that the asset turnover, if you observe students, why it is showing a lower figure is asset turnover consists of two operations, if I'm not mistaken. One is the heat pump, correct? No students, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And the other one is the, if I'm not mistaken, gas boiler. Agree, no students?
Yes, sir.
Now, what happens is students, gas boiler is our first factory, if I'm not mistaken. The factory which had the highest level of turnover. Agree, no students? Earlier, long time ago. Now, the issue is gas boilers sales are dropping. So, although you may have production resources, your productivity will be less. Correct, no students? Yes or no?
Yes,
So
sir.
the asset turnover would have effectively reduced because of gas boilers are also in that content. So the technical understanding and the logical application that you can improve in this case is you can effectively make sure that you transition gas boiler plant into heat pump plant. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Transition can be an opportunity. Are you clear with that, students? So
Yes, sir.
transition from gas boiler to heat pump. Transition from gas boiler to heat pump. Students, I believe that is giving you a better idea. I'll give you a basic example also. Now you observe, Anushka, like in 1990s to 2005, buying a bike is a big thing. If you
Yes,
have a
sir.
bike, it's a big thing in every houses. Correct, no, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
Now you have a second-hand market. Correct. So
Yes,
everyone
sir.
has a motorbike in their house. Agree, no, Anushka?
Agree, sir.
Now Honda has understood if they keep on producing bikes, they will again lose their market share
Market.
because second-hand market is doing better than primary because
Primary. Yes,
motorbike,
sir.
everything, or even vehicles, generally second-hand market is also there. It's a very active market.
Market.
So now what happened is Honda is transitioning its factories more towards, if I'm not mistaken, more towards car. Because now see, car is something a great achievement. But
Yes,
earlier,
sir.
bike was a great achievement.
Achievement. Yes, sir.
And if in the UK case, it will give you a better example also. Now, if you observe in the 1500s, the UK experienced industrial revolution. I believe everyone is aware about that. Now, if you see industrial revolution of 1500 is currently taking place in India, that is in 2022, after 500 years. Correct, no, Anushka?
Yes,
Now,
sir.
now you see globalization, everything, the
Yes, sir.
GDP growth, everything you see. what has happened is the UK government has transitioned their manufacturing to India because they are more curious about climate change. They are more curious about population growth because population growth is a threat, students, frankly speaking. Because I just went, I'll give you an idea. Now, UK would have been the third GDP. India is the second GDP. Correct, no, students, if I'm not mistaken, today.
Yes.
Because India has surplus. But the second GDP of India is again due to a population growth. Correct, no, students?
Yes.
Now, if you see the British population is little low, I cannot say little low, it's extremely lower than Indian population, but they have come to third GDP. So that is one reason. So transitioning is that idea. So students, can I get a Y in the chat box if you understood that point of view of transitioning? Because transition can take place. You need to train employees. It will happen a lot. And I think that gives you a better clarity there. So thank you on that point. So students, I can just write down also, there can be transition of the gas boiler factory, the gas boiler factory, the gas boiler factory, and also the heat pump. Correct, no, students, if I'm not mistaken. Yes or no? Gas boiler factory to heat pump. Gas boiler factory to heat pump.
Yes, sir.
To heat pump. To heat pump. I believe everyone got that clarity there. So students, can I get a Y in the chat box if you are fine with that? Because that is the classical understanding of how we align our point of view, how we think to our point of view, how we differentiate our point of view. Now, operational profit anyway, Anushka, we will have lower because our value chain is big, no, Anushka, if
Yes,
I'm not
sir.
mistaken. And operational profit for Thermwike will definitely be higher because anyway, they are not having excess investments on expenses. Correct, no, Anushka,
Yes,
if I'm
sir.
not mistaken.
Yes,
So
sir.
students, can I get a confirmation from you in the chat box if you understood why the operational profit is very high? BMW will have a generally a lower operational profit compared with a company like TVS. Okay, because TVS may not have a huge value chain like what is there with Honda. So I'll write down here a basic point. This ratio is correct since Hottayr possess a higher value chain, a higher value chain in the production, there is always a scope of having a lower operating profit growth. Operating profit growth. Correct, no, students? Yes or no? That is the factor. Operating profit growth. However, in contrast, if you observe a happy place, and in contrast, who is the next person, students? That is Thermwike. Thermwike may generally have a higher growth due to the operations and the target sector. Operations and target sector. Operation and target sector. Students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are very, very clear with that point of view?
So could
Any
you
point?
explain the thermic point, sir?
Yeah, because in contrast, they can have a higher growth because their operations are very less, no, Anushka. Because they
Yes, sir.
don't have inventions, they don't have a research team, they don't have IoT, and the
Yes, sir.
target sector and the people also, if you observe, maybe a broader target sector because economical class is generally broader, no, Anushka, if I'm
Yes,
not
sir.
mistaken. Now, a basic example, you see mobile phone companies like Huawei may definitely have a higher growth compared with Apple. Definitely.
Yes, sir.
Because everyone will buy Huawei, no, Anushka, in practical life. No
Yes,
one
sir.
will go for Apple unless and otherwise they have the affordability and
Affordable.
they are a client of Apple in simple
Yes,
language.
sir. Yes, sir.
Students, I believe that is fine there. Now, one thing, students, if you observe the interest of our organization, just observe it's 15 and 16, almost, sorry, 15 and 15. Do you see here, students? The interest remains the same, right? First year and the second year. Do you
Yes.
get what I'm saying?
Yes,
15,
sir.
15. Now, students, you observe one point of view in this case. One point of view in this case, the borrowing also remains the same. Correct, no, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
So, can I say this is a fixed interest? We are
Yes,
having
sir.
a fixed
Fixed
interest
interest.
long-term borrowing.
Yes, sir.
But students, you observe our competitor, their interest rates are going down. Correct? Yes or no?
Yes,
From 10
sir.
to 9. And you observe here, their borrowing is 90-90. So the problem is our competitor has floating interest rate and we have fixed interest rate. So we will have some technical issues whether how can we exploit the floating interest rate. Floating interest rate, the good thing is when there is a reduction in the interest rate, the floating interest rate people will benefit from that. But the positivity of the fixed interest rate is in the scope of where there is high interest, they will benefit because they need to pay the fixed amount that was agreed. Are you clear with that, students? Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? Anushka, were you able to observe that or
Yes,
no?
sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
excellent.
sir.
So students, let's start analyzing that also. So I'll just mention here the loan amount remains same for both the entity. Correct, no, students, if I'm not mistaken. The loan amounts remains the same for both the entity, but for term like the interest is falling mainly because they have a floating interest rate. They have a floating interest rate. Students, I believe that gives you a clear floating interest rate. And for, I can say for Hottayr, sorry. For Hottayr, they have a fixed interest rate. Students, makes sense now, students, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
sir.
Yes or no? Fixed interest rate. So I believe this gives a better clarity at the moment for the entire classroom relating to these factors. So can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are clear with that basic understanding of the floating interest rate and the fixed interest rate also. So I'll just write down a small technical point so that you will be a little bit vigilant in your examination. Therefore, we can expect interest rate management questions. Correct, no, students? Interest rate management questions. Interest rate management questions. Students, I believe everyone is clear with that. Can I get a confirmation from you all
Yes,
in the chat
sir.
box if it is fine? Wonderful. Now, students, now if you see taxation, when the profit before tax is increasing, the taxation is going up. And even observe in this case also, students, the same thing is happening. When the profits are increasing, tax is increasing.
Increasing.
In simple language, it is known as the progressive tax in simple language. Now, students, if you see in the United States of America, there is a party called Democrats Party. The Democrats Party's main policy is progression in tax. But the Republican Party generally don't go for taxation. So that is the basic idea about the tax policies, if I'm not mistaken. So students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are clear with the taxation policies? Can I get a confirmation? So I will just work on that. So I'll write down here the taxation policy. The taxation policy is generally progressive tax. Understand it very, very clearly, students. Therefore, in the long run, we may have tax avoidance challenges. Yes or no, students? Tax avoidance challenges. Makes sense, no, students? Not tax evasion, tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is legal. Agree, no, students? Tax evasion is only illegal. Are
Legal.
you getting what I'm saying? Ethical
Yes, sir.
issues can come. Correct, no, Anushka? Now let's assume
Yes, sir.
you are a person who starts to work. Your income is increasing every day and your tax also is increasing, but you don't
Increasing.
feel any development in the social security or social welfare. You will effectively focus on going to the tax avoidance, right? If I'm
Yes,
not
sir.
mistaken. So students get that application properly. So that is also successfully done. Profit for the year, once again, the same logic only. Because this ratio, right? If you observe students, profit for the year, again, the person who sells the economical product may have the highest growth. This is not the margin, this is the growth. You get what I'm saying, no, students?
Yes,
Because
sir.
the same factor only. Now, students, coming to the property, plant, and equipment. Now you see here 12.41 they have spent in the property, plant, and equipment, but we have spent only 8.48 in the property, plant. So I'll just take you to the property, plant, and equipment. You find out here, and we don't have any revaluation reserve. Do you feel any revaluation reserves are there at the moment?
No,
I
sir.
don't think so. So students, can I write down here a small note? There is no revaluation. Now, revaluation is a very, very important area for business valuation because Anushka, if there is no revaluation presented here, the meaning is all our financial statements are at book value,
Book
correct,
value. Yes, sir.
students? So students, just remember this can be one more thing. And when there is a hostile takeover, when someone is planning to take your company in an unethical manner by paying more money to your investors, then when there is a revaluation done, the amounts go again higher.
Yeah.
So when the amounts are going higher, it can prevent a hostile takeover also. Fine.
Yes,
So
yes, sir.
students, property, plant, and equipment, you see here, there is no revaluation. So if you observe, it's 8.48 and it's 12.41. Now the difference is like this. Now, if you see Anushka, our company is a well-established organization.
Yes,
So
sir.
their company is not much. So the differentiation factor is why they have spent more on property, plant, and equipment. It can be repairs and maintenance, correct? Or the replacements.
Yes,
Because
sir.
our company is a premium range company. So since we are a premium range company, we generally have the application where our manufacturing products or the machines what we use are having a very stability compared with our competitors. So I'll write down here that point of view so that it will be clear. The property, plant, and equipment is not having any revaluation, not having any revaluation. Students, are you understanding that point? It's not having any revaluation. It's not having any revaluation. I believe the class is very clear with that sentence of not having revaluation because that is one basic factor a financial analyst should know. And then students, in simple language, I can move forward further. The quality of the product, or I can say the quality of the machineries can be observed, can be observed since we have spent less means we have better equipments. We have better equipments. Example, Anushka, when you buy Chinese products, what happens? Later you need to spend more. Agree,
More.
no?
Yes, yes, sir.
So that is the point of view. Now, the next thing is development cost. You see, we have spent 23%. And here only 21%. On par, I told you there's a risk. Because if our competitor, who is an economical producer, produces the same type of product what we are producing at an affordable rate, it will affect us. Are you understanding what I'm saying, Anushka?
Yes,
Now,
sir.
example, people say now Apple products around 70% has been replicated by the Chinese companies. But Apple has made sure it is a social brand. Example, when you are carrying it outside, it
Yes,
gives
sir.
you a social esteem.
Yes, team.
But
Yes, sir.
if you see hot heat, a boiler, everything, do you feel your relations will come to your house and check what is your boiler? No, no, student.
No, sir.
No one will come and check. So in that case, the biggest risk is their esteem value. It's very difficult to bring to the mindset of the social class because people generally are not bothered. What is the brand of your commode? What is your brand of your sink? What is your brand of your shower? You may have a branded one, but no one is bothered. But people are always bothered about what is your brand of your clothes, what is your brand of your vehicles. So understand that application very clearly. So I can say the research and development, the research and development of the amounts are really good, since the companies needs to ensure they have a stronger innovation to compete. Correct, no students, strong innovation to compete in the market. Students, can I get a Y in the chat box? So the biggest challenge is, in simple language, the risk. The risk faced, the risk faced, the risk faced by the company. The risk faced by the company is, in case if Thermwike, if Thermwike manages to produce better quality products at affordable price. At affordable price, it may have a direct impact. It may have a direct impact. Students, I believe this explanation is very clear for you all at the moment. Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Now, students, trade receivable, if you see, we are growing at 11.11, and you see here their trade receivable is going down. The main reason is word of mouth. Now, can you remember, Anushka, one of the biggest strength we have is even installers recommend our product. Correct, no,
Yes,
Anushka?
sir. Yes, sir.
So there can be a situation why the trade receivable is reducing. Is one thing the customers also don't want, B2B, they also don't want their product in their company, because very critical it we can observe it. That is the one point of thing. So I'll write down here the word of mouth. The word of mouth, the word of mouth feedback by installers would have increased the demand for, I can say, Hottayr to increase the credit sales. Correct, no, students, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
This is a stable factor to be considered. To be considered. Students, in the local market, one strong thing you have is you are dominating. Correct, no, students? In the local market. With our local producers. But with the international producers is only the question arises.
Mm.
Now, coming to the bank. Bank balance, you see 18% increase, 14.29. So frankly speaking, again, cash position is very strong. The cash position is strong, since we have own factory. Correct, no, students? We have own factory premises, because certain businesses, they don't have own factory premises. One of the greatest success for our business is we have our own factory premises. And students, retained earnings is 53 and 48. If you don't mind, I'll just show you the other one, students, that is the dividend. Now, students, you observe the dividend. We have paid a dividend, correct? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, you observe here, students, our profit for the year is 130 and our dividend payout is 82.
Sir,
And
it's
I'm
term weeks, not hours.
term mix, right? So
Yes, sir.
I'll go for the hours. So if you see in our business, again, we have made 97 as a profit and we have also paid 42 as a dividend, correct?
Yes,
So
sir.
even after you pay dividend, if you are able to have a return earnings of 53 and 48, I can say that's a good indication. Stock market wise, sustainability is there. Agree, no student?
Yes,
You
sir.
are paying dividends and still you are having a return earnings. So I'll write down here the free cash flow. The free cash flow after paying the dividends. After paying the dividends is generally higher. Is generally higher, indicating the company can expand the geographical and the product segments. Geographical and the product segments. Students, I believe everyone has got that application very clearly there. Now, if you see the trade payables again, it has grown by 8.33 and here less. The main reason is the supplier relationship is also better. Now, even Anushka, you see for big brands, suppliers don't have a doubt. They
Yes,
know
sir.
anyway they will be paying. So I'll write down here the supplier relationship. The supplier relationship has been well managed. Has been well managed. So students, can I get a confirmation? Since they have a very long trading history, 1952 till date is a very long trading history. And a tax liability, if you observe students, it has reduced compared with the last year. Once again, students, I'll just write down, since we have spent on R&D, correct, no students?
Yes, sir.
We can experience a reduction in tax base, in tax base, in tax. So students, as a conclusion in our growth analysis, I am very transparent that this is not a like-to-like comparison. So that is the biggest weakness in our pre-seen material. They have given a competitor who is not like-to-like comparison. But we also saw one major thing about the risk we may have faced is this one. This
Yes,
is a
sir.
very important risk because if they are able to manage to produce the same type of products what we are producing at a lower rate, they can dominate the market. So I believe it is very clear and
Yes.
transparent to the classroom at the moment. So students, if you do
So,
not mind, yeah,
could you explain tax liability, sir?
yeah. Tax liability, you see 12.50 is a reduction,
Yes,
and for
sir.
him it's 12.5. The reason is, can you remember when the profit increases, if you observe students, tax will increase. Agree, no students? If
Yes,
you
sir.
observe. And even if you observe our competitor, their profits have increased severely. So their tax will also increase. Correct, no students? In
Yes,
simple
sir.
language. But you see the tax liability here has gone up by 4. But if you observe for our organization, the tax liability has gone down by
Down.
2. The main reason is we have effectively spent more on development cost. Are you understanding? Our development cost has increased. It's a tax claimable one
Oh, okay,
compared,
sir.
compared with our competitor. Even they have spent, but they have spent comparatively lower than us.
Lower. Okay, sir.
Thank you. So students, if you are okay with that, can we start analyzing the gross profit margins, everything, if it is okay? Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? Excellent, thank you. Now, students, I have clubbed the GP and the profit for the year together. The reason is our financial statements, you can observe, is a very tiny financial statement. They have not given a detailed application of the change. Agree, no students, if
Yes,
I'm not
sir.
mistaken. Now, you see the gross profit margin, if you observe, we are only having 16, despite we are a premium product. But Thermwike is having around 19, or almost in par with us, although they are an economical product. So one thing I can say at the end, we are having value for money to the customers. Correct, no, Anushka?
Yes,
Because
sir.
you see, these guys, term wise, they are having a better margin compared with us. Agree, no, students?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
But do you see, Anushka, they are having a better revenue growth compared with us? No, no.
No, sir.
Because the main reason is their products are costly effectively. But if you see our products, may be premium, but still value for money. Are you understanding
Yes,
that
sir.
point of view? Students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you get that? Now, example, Anushka, Samsung high-end mobile phones are there. Have you
Yes,
observed that?
yes, sir.
It's always better to go for an Apple rather than going for a Samsung high-end product. What do you think, Anushka?
Yes, sir. Agree, sir.
Practically speaking, because Apple would have generally made low, continuous upgrades, everything you may get. So that is the understanding there. So I'm going to come and explain here. I can just write down here. Termwise is making better margins compared with us. Correct, no, students? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
However, their sales growth are less. Sales growth are less. Agree, no, students? Yes or
Yes,
no?
sir. Yes, sir.
This is a clear indication. This is a clear indication. This is a clear indication that the firm is not creating value for money. Correct, no, students? Not creating value for money. On contrast, that is our company. Let's do a contrast. Okay. On contrast, Hottayr, although we have higher market segment, within bracket I'll mention premium, our margins are less. Our margins are less, meaning we have a better, what, students? Value for money. Value for money. Example, continuous feedback. Correct, no, Anushka? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
We have that continuous feedback. That means in the app we can get the feedback
Feedback.
based on the continuous feedback, which may reduce the profit, but increase the customer base. Agree, no, students? Yes or no? Now, certain expenses may reduce the profit, but it may increase the customer base also, right? Practically speaking, I
Yes,
believe
sir.
everyone has got that application there. So, can we continue with the ROC, students, the return on capital
Yes, sir.
employed? Even ROC, ROI, I have clubbed together.
Yes.
Now, even you observe once again, our ROCE and the ROI, we don't have any revaluation. We observe that. Correct, no, Anushka? The
Yes, sir.
revaluation is not at all recorded. So ROCE and ROI is on a very, I can say, comparable, not manipulated. Because when there is revaluation, everything only there will be manipulations, everything taking place. But you observe it very clearly, students. The ROCE, we have paid a dividend payout of 43. And even if you see, we have paid 63 out. Now, their ROCE and the ROI is generally higher than us. We can agree on a percentage point of view. The reason is their end user is different. The end market is different. That means their business model is penetration. Are you understanding what I'm saying, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
Penetration means you increase the market share by reducing the cost. Agree, no, students?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But if you see our one, we are not going into the penetration, we are going into the skimming, where we are having a high price, but still compared with our consumer, we are having a lower number of units sold. Agree, if I'm not mistaken. So in
Sir,
this
I
case,
didn't understand that point, sir.
skimming means that we are having a higher price, but
Yes,
the
sir.
units we sell is very less compared with our customers.
Oh, okay, okay. Yes, sir.
Correct, no? Because if you
Yes, sir.
see The other person, they would have had a higher units sold but less price,
Less
in
price,
simple
yes.
language. So students, you observe this ROCE and the ROI very, very carefully. Now ROCE 21 and ROI is 23. Again, if you observe once again, we can see that we have other activities also. Other activities we have is safety standards. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anushka.
Yes, sir.
Now, in term wise, did they mention anything related to safety standards?
No,
Gas
sir.
leaks, anything, nothing.
Nothing.
So the factor that we have to understand is, despite our ROC and the ROI is low, the value we have created in the market is very high, intangible value. Are you understanding, students? Example,
Yes, sir.
a product has a usage of 5 years above the guarantee period, and our product has almost exceeded the market usage capacity than
Yes,
other
sir.
players. So I'll just write down once again, although the ROCE and the ROI is less. The ROCE and the ROI is less compared to term Y. Compared to term Y, we have to understand our products have a better safety and assurance, better safety and assurance, which may have an effective, I can write down here, an effective value created for the shareholders and funders. Therefore, in the long term, we have a separate pathway. We have a separate pathway. That means we are not directly competing with these things. Example, Anushka, you see Oxford University, Cambridge
Yes,
University,
sir.
they are having a different pathway, right?
Yes,
Whatever
sir.
the universities that comes and goes, these universities are different from the rest of the world because
Yes,
they have
sir.
a different pathway. But those universities may not make the enough money because they are spending more on research and development. Are you all clear with that,
Yes,
student?
sir.
Now, interest cover and the gearing also, students, if you observe, interest cover looks fine. That means our competitor can bear more, but our gearing is also sufficient considering our organization size. Because we are a huge organization and still 32% of gearing is something okay because we still have the opportunity to go forward as well. Correct, no, students, if I'm not mistaken. So if you observe, once again, I'll write down the point here. The gearing level has been managed very well, since we are not facing any risk. We are not facing any risk. And we have two factories. Correct, no, students? Yes or no? We have two
Yes, sir.
factories and higher asset base. Higher asset base. Therefore, we can conclude the capital structure is well managed. Capital structure is what, students? Well managed. Agree, no, students? Well managed as well. Are you fine with that, students? Can I get a confirmation there? Any
Sir,
doubts? Yeah.
yes. So Thermbook is also like of our similar size, don't you think so? Given their revenue, like in absolute terms and all, they're in similar in par with us, sir. So don't you think that it is also a big company, and given that their gearing is very low, we could be considered as risky?
You are correct at the moment. Now, if you observe in that point of view, if you see the revenues they have, 801 and 790, and even if you see our organization, the revenue we have is comparatively lower. But
Yes,
the
sir.
lower means that doesn't means that we are small company. our target audience is small. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like gold, if you observe, like Tanishq, everything will have a very low revenue compared with the rest of the players, correct? No, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
So even you see like branded products may generally have a lower revenue.
Lower.
But I am only concerned about one thing, that is the share capital. Now if you see the share capital here we have is 250. Okay, and if you observe, our asset base is somewhere around 674, correct? No, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
And even if you see our competitors, their share capital is greater than us.
Yes,
And
sir.
also if you see the asset base is small, no?
Oh, yes, sir.
Asset base is smaller. So comparatively with the share capital, they are higher. But the share capital is, Anushka, can be also manipulated, no, Anushka, if I'm not mistaken, because share capital valuation is done in papers, no, Anushka, in
Yes, sir.
but asset value is very difficult to manipulate unless and otherwise there is a revaluation, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So in that point of view, on the asset base, I think we are bigger than us. Are you
Okay. Yes, sir.
So when we have a bigger asset base, the biggest challenge is our overheads also will be higher. Makes
Higher.
sense?
Yes, sir.
So I'll write down that point. The asset base is used to compare the size. It's used to compare the size. Is that clear, Anushka?
Yes, sir. Got it, sir.
Got it, no, students? Students, can I
Yes.
get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are fine with that application, students? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, students. Thank you. Okay, now students, current ratio and the quick ratio, again, the standard 2:1, and if you see 1:1. But considering our industry, students, we are not having liquidity problem. Because I'll tell you why. Our industry is a capex industry. Agree, no, Anushka? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Because liquidity problem will be generally faced by industries which are on retail sector. Agree, no,
Yes, sir.
Anushka?
Yes, sir.
If you observe established retail sector.
Yes,
But
sir.
if you see these, even if there's a lockdown, still these companies can survive. Correct, no, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
Because when there is a lockdown, there will be a bigger challenge for companies who are B2C. And you see, inventory days are effectively zero. Can someone tell me why inventory days are zero by any chance? Can someone guess that point?
So maybe we make it to customer order or
Yeah,
something. Or
we make it only based on the pre-order. The main
yes.
reason is customers don't order from us. The
The
building
builders.
builders, and if I'm not mistaken, our clients directly order from us.
Yes, sir.
That means when they make the order itself, the inventory doesn't belong to us. The inventory is belong to someone else. Are you
Yes, sir.
understanding that point of view, students? We may have safety stocks. Safety stocks is not considered in the inventory because inventory consists of three things, no, Anushka: finished
Yes,
good,
sir.
work in progress,
Working.
and raw material.
Yes.
And raw materials in factories are generally not considered as an inventory days. The reason behind that is anyway a factory should have raw materials. Correct, no, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
Practically speaking.
Yes, sir.
So students, are you understanding the ecosystem of this business? The ecosystem of this business is not a push system. It's a pull system.
Full system.
So students, can I get a why in the chat box? If you got that logical idea behind why inventories are less, it's a pull system. So let's come to that application more in detail. The industry is a pull system. Is a pull system. The industry is a pull system. Can I get a confirmation there, students? Meaning the factories produce limited goods. The factories produce what, students? Limited goods. Agree, no, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
Now, can I ask you one question relating to that asset turnover also?
Yes,
Now,
sir.
considering the nature of the pull system, still I cannot consider asset turnover because in the pull system, you anyway can't have efficient asset turnover. Why? Because you only produce when there is an order. Correct?
Order. Yes, sir.
And example, if one person order once, they will order again after 10 or
10
15
years. Yes,
or
sir.
15 years only. And one thing, Anushka, I have to say, In developed countries like UK or
Yes, sir.
USA, the current challenge is it's already developed. So
Yes, sir.
they only have replacements to be done.
Displacement. Yes, yes.
Now consider like countries like Brazil, Argentina, which are on a growth stage, South Africa,
Yes,
India,
sir.
these countries only will effectively need something for these items. Correct, no, Anushka?
Yes, sir. Agree,
Students, are
sir.
you understanding what I'm saying there? Now, if you go to Middle East, you see Gulf countries almost developed. They have everything now. They have apartments, everything, roads, all are constructed. They are currently in a saturated point. So hereafter construction sector all won't do well. Correct, no? So
Yes,
I'll write
sir.
down here. Further, this industry needs to be managed well. Since in case if the development is higher, then there is no need for new products to emerge. Correct, no, Anushka? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Students, I believe everyone is very clear with that application point there. And students, I can generally say this sector may rarely struggle, may rarely face liquidity issue. May rarely face liquidity issue. Now, a trade receivable, Anushka, they are only giving 33 or
Yeah,
34 days
34
for
days.
a product which will last for how many years?
10 years.
10 years.
10
So
years.
are they even efficient, Anushka? Yes or no? Because you observe 10 years
Yes.
lasting product, customers can ask a longer period.
Longer periods.
Can you
Yes,
give
sir.
us at least half 6 months credit period? Correct, no,
Yes, yes,
Anushka?
sir.
But still, these guys are doing very, very well because they are not exceeding the time period of more than 2 months. Correct, no,
Yes, sir.
Anushka?
Agree, sir.
So, students, this is how these sectors emerge, and this is how they balance their ecosystem very, very well. And effectively, cash is collected for a 15 years old product within how many days?
2 months, sir.
2 months or 1.5 months. So,
Month.
students, do you observe the cash cycle is also perfect? So, effectively, the risk, the liquidity risk is not there. Are you understanding
Yes,
how the
sir.
application is done, students? Because when the usage or the durability of the product is very much time frame, 10 years, 15 years time, you easily collect it. The main reason is ecosystem because only two players are there. Correct, no,
Yes,
Anushka?
yes,
You
sir.
observe lift, escalators, all this you can use for 10 years,
10
15
years.
years. And in that case, also, you see, they control the industry by making sure only limited players are there. Bosch is
Yes,
only
sir.
there. And you only have Mitsubishi, Bosch, they are the Otis, these
Yes,
are the
sir.
major suppliers. So I'll write down here the, the business ecosystem is well managed. Correct, no, Anishka? Yes,
Yes,
son.
sir.
And also, they are only providing very, I can say, few days for a product which has 10 years, a product which has 10 years usage, which has 10 years usage. Are you understanding that point of view? 10 years usage, 10 years usage. 10 years usage. Okay, now students, coming to the payable days also, Anushka, we pay faster than our competitor. You
Yes, sir.
understand?
Yes,
That's a
sir.
good or bad thing? What do
It's
you
a
think?
good thing, sir. Given we have to maintain good relationship with our suppliers because
Customers, suppliers,
plus
so we
because we
can
have
get the
shortage.
priority.
Yes,
Priority,
sir.
we can get that.
Yes,
So
sir.
once again, I'll write that point also. The supplier relationship is is better than supply relationship is better than
Better
what, student? It's better than
term.
the term buy. Correct? Yes or no?
Yes,
It's
sir.
better
Yes,
than the
sir.
term buy. Where we can always get the priority orders. Agree, no, students?
Yes, sir.
In shortage time.
Yes.
In shortage time.
Yes, sir.
The students, that gives you a better and good working capital management. Good working capital management. Now I will ask you a very different question. Now, students, barriers to entry. In a system where like this it is done, can a new entrant easily come, Manushka?
No,
Very
sir.
difficult. No, very
Very
difficult.
difficult. Yes, sir.
Because students, it's not easy to emerge even if you have a good product, because inventory days are zero. You order and only you do it. You have to take huge risk to break this market.
Yes, sir.
And finally, the dividend payout. I have to say, the dividend payout. The dividend payout looks fine since the product is for 10 years span. Correct, no, Anushka? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
10 years span. The investors may expect fixed income. Correct or not correct, Anushka? Yes or
Yes,
no?
sir. Yes, sir.
Now, when your product is very stable, when your product is having like 10 years lifespan, then fixed income model only must be used to attract your investors, because they will be happy when they are getting that money on time.
Money. Yes.
So students, effectively saying this ratio analysis was not a like-to-like comparison. First understanding, because we are comparing a product or a company which is not in our same, I can say, line of business model, although they are producing the same product. So that was our first observation in this. Correct, no, students?
Yes,
That is the
sir.
first observation. The second observation, students, I have to be even more careful is that we were able to understand how the enterprise system works. Zero inventory, pull system. You get what I'm saying, students?
Yes,
So
sir.
we got that understanding very well. Now, when you're doing case study exam, Anushka, you
Yes,
need to
sir.
always think the first golden rule is the lasting duration of our product, 10 years.
10 years.
So 10 years old products, it is very difficult to make the market. What do you think, Anushka?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Agree, sir.
Now, Anushka, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
When you went to school, in your school, how many years did you study?
Almost 12 years, sir.
12 years, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
is it easy to break the market of a school or very
No,
difficult?
sir. Very difficult, sir.
Very difficult, students. Very difficult. Now, you see, schools are more powerful than colleges, because colleges' lifespan is only 3 years.
3 years.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
It's very easy to break your college market by improving online system, everything. But can you easily break a school market, students? No, right?
No,
It's
no,
like
sir.
12 years, so many inventions come. Still,
Yes,
parents
sir.
are very scared, right, Anushka? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very scared. So understand it very clearly. Your thinking perspective should always consider the nature of the product, what is going to the market, rather than a general perspective. I think this is the first time in our CIMA new syllabus we have got a product nature where it is used for 10
10
years,
years.
like lift, escalators, if I'm not mistaken. And in simple language, Anushka, drainage systems. Have you heard, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
Water drainage system. Those are like 10 years only. It
Yes.
becomes people won't be stingy or penny foolish on a drainage system, because if you go for a cheaper drainage system, every time you need to clear your septic tank or everything.
Yes,
Correct, no,
sir. Yes,
students?
sir.
So you will always go for the expensive one, and still it is premium also, that is okay for you. So students,
Yes,
can I
sir.
get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are clear with the nature of the product? Now, in the future, we are going to do questions. We are going to do questions. I will teach you all the core competencies as well. Don't worry about that. But practicing, thinking, and improving through the knowledge will help you to secure very good marks and pass this paper successfully. So, a humble request to the students, it is better you revise one past paper question, and then you will understand how to think better. So it will at least give you how to think in the bigger picture. because these products are 10 years old consumed products, and the networking is not direct to the consumer, through the installers, through the building merchants, through the last house constructors and oil and gas. So relationship marketing plays a clear role in this perspective. So I will go for the one-to-one question session. So I will start from Anushka. Any questions you have?
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, I want if you could explain, like, because it is a 10 years market, I'm not really sure like how they are managing, like, right, to some extent now I understood how they are managing the cash balance and all. But if you could more in detail explain like how they are managing their growth and everything, I feel like it'll be better to understand, sir.
Very clear. Now, if you see, Lion's Pride is how this industry works out, and aeroplane is the basic example. Now, let's
Yes,
assume Air India is buying a Boeing Aeroflight. It will not use for 2 years and sell it. Correct, no, Anushka?
yes, sir.
It will be using for 10, 15 years. Agree, no?
Yes,
So,
sir.
what happens is Boeing and Airbus is only the producers of flights until now. Agree?
Yes, yes,
So
sir.
what has happened is they have created an ecosystem from their past history, because these industries, 10 years old product, you need to have physical evidence. Correct, no,
Yes,
Anish?
yes, sir.
So one way they manage this industry is the risk they have taken in the previous years. Are you clear with that, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
So that is one way. And the second way, Anushka, they are managing this industry is by having a very good orchestration, because
Yes,
only
sir.
flow noise is only there. So once
Yes.
again, this is managed very, very well.
Well,
And the cash balance, everything what they make is, when you are going to sell a 10 years worth product, you will be going through the accrual concept. Can you remember, Anushka, when you receive? Now,
yes,
example,
sir.
when you pay your college fee for 1 year, they will not take your 1 year fee and spend it next day. They
Yes,
will
sir.
accrue that for a period of how many months? 12 months. So let's assume you pay for a heater or a gas boiler. The company may not directly take that cash and settle it. Are you clear with that? They will
Okay.
spend that for the period of 10, 15 years. Are you understanding how they do the finance function there?
No, sir, I didn't.
And that means when you pay your full money for a
Yes,
product,
sir. Yes,
they
sir.
won't record the product value immediately. They will spread that cash value for the period of 10 years.
10 years. Oh, okay,
You
sir.
got
Yes,
that
sir.
point now,
Yes, sir.
Anushka? When you pay rent, one
Yes,
year
sir.
rent when you pay, do you think that a house loan, there may be people who take the money and spend it
10.
also.
Yes,
But
sir.
in sustainable perspective, they
12
take
months.
that 1 year money and they need to spread it for
10,
12 months.
12
That's
months.
the
Yes,
correct
sir.
way of utilizing
Utilizing.
long-term incomes and long-term assets. Correct, no,
Yes,
Anushka, if
sir.
I'm
Yes,
not
sir.
mistaken. Now, one of the biggest mistake people don't understand is when you buy a mobile phone like Apple or everything, that means you must not use it for 1 year and sell it. You should
Yes,
spread it
sir.
for a period of 3 to 4 years.
4
Are you
years.
understanding that?
Yes, sir.
So this is how they manage the finances, and very strict discipline is important in places like this, Anushka, because
Yes,
you
sir.
observe colleges when you went to your school or your college, they charge term fees, right, Anushka, not
Yes,
monthly.
sir.
And you
Yes.
see, these colleges are very stingy. Have you observed that, Anushka? They don't
Yes,
spend
sir.
money easily. They will
Yes,
ask
sir.
money for everything, because
Thing.
whatever the money you spend, they are not becoming rich. They're spreading that money throughout the span of that student's period. Are you
Yes,
getting
sir.
that?
Yes, sir.
So the biggest challenge is corporate governance. And in here, if the corporate governance, internal controls, internal audits are very strong, there is no frauds in finance,
Yes,
these
sir.
enterprises can survive for a longer period of time. Is that clear, Anushka?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Sir, I have one doubt.
Yes, Jayabal.
Uh, Here you told that the revenue recognitions should spread across the 10 years, right? Instead
Not
of 1
revenue
year.
recognition, cash flows, cash flows, cash flows. Your bank balance should be for 10 years. Revenue recognition can be recognized immediately because
Mm.
the risk and reward is transferred, right? If I'm not
Yes, yes, yes.
mistaken.
Yeah, risk and
But
reward
the
is a term.
cash flow is not should not be spent immediately. The cash flow what you receive should be spent for the period of 10 years. Are you understanding, Jayabal? You can record the revenue immediately, but the cash flow, example, the salary, everything should be equated for a period of 10 years. Example, you sell a gas boiler today and you got 1 million. So that 1 million, you can't immediately pay for your today's expenses. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm getting.
1 million cash, what you have received, although you have recorded as 1 million, you need to spread that cash for the 10 years expenses of your company. Are you understanding that? That's how these large organizations successfully work.
I believe for 10 years guarantee related products, when they are doing the recognition, if they want to spread for expenses for 10 years, obviously they might be having some provisions, right?
Yeah, and that's the that is the differentiating factor in these industries. So they are cash rich, very much cash rich. They are resources rich, but they spread it. Now, if you observe Middle Eastern countries, now you don't know the main reason they are successful with the oil and gas is people think they are spending everything. No, they are not spending everything what they have. Their reserves balance are very, very high. If you have time, Jayabal, you just check balance of payment UAE, balance of payment Saudi Arabia, balance of payment Qatar, and compare the balance of payment with those with country like India. And I'll tell you why Sri Lanka failed very openly. I'll tell you. When they got loan from China, what they do? They spent it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
When you get 10 years loan, you must keep it for 10 years and spend it. Correct or not correct?
Yeah. Yes,
When you get 10 years loan, if you spend in 1 or 2 years, you will have a crisis, right? Correct, no, Jayabal? Practically. Are you understanding financial management? Because your financial accounting concept is perfectly correct. When the risk and reward is transferred, we need to record it. But in financial management, it is common sense. Correct, no, Jayabal? Yes, sir.
Yes, I understand. One more thing, like keeping money in like say, for example, we are selling one product which is for 10 years or long life.
Yeah.
And keeping that money for ideal, which is creating what you call opportunity cost something, right?
Yeah, but I cannot say it's creating an opportunity cost because there is something called notional cost. Notional cost means the cost, the cost which you need to incur even if there is not there. You understand what I'm saying now, Jayabal? Because these are high risk business. So I'll give a small idea about what is notional cost. Now, Jayabal, let's assume you have your own house. Okay, you have a mentality. This is my own house. This is my own house. You will end up bankrupt one day. I'll tell you why. If you see, even if you have a own cost, there is a notional cost. Correct, no, Jayabal? Yes, sir. That notional cost is the rent what you should pay for a house in case if you don't have a own house. Agree, no, Jayabal?
Yeah.
Now, you look at the richest people in the world, they calculate notional cost also. They have their own house, but they will also accumulate an account for paying a rent for their own house. Correct, no? So in case if there is a major damage, they can use that account money to settle it. Correct, no, Jayabal? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You see, many of the people in the middle class, what they do, they don't calculate notional cost. They have their own house. They have that confidence. I'm living in my own house, but effectively they are wasting their notional cost. You get what I'm saying?
Yes. I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So Nelum, any questions? Reshma, any questions? Kitiswaran, any questions? You can ask. If you are fine, you can put Y in the chat box.
Nothing, sir. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Reshma. Happy New Year. And Anushka, finally, any questions? Did you understand the conversation between me and Jebal about that notional quest?
Yes, sir. I understood that, sir.
Excellent. So students, thank you very much. So happy New Year. May this New Year be your New Year of your graduation. So
thank
take
you so
care,
much.
students.
Happy New Year too.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year.
New Year to all.
Okay. Take care.